from crime intelligence, from the detectives, and of course from the Deputy Provincial Commissioner. And I've got a strong sense of, I understand what happened. The briefing had a lot of information about the incident and about ongoing investigations. We also looked at what else must be done to strengthen our response to the gangs. And I've asked the Deputy Provincial Commissioner for a report in 2 weeks' time on the further steps that need to be taken, because it was clear that not all the components of the criminal justice system, the prosecutors, the SIU, the asset forfeiture unit, the prosecutors are actually involved. The police at the moment in Gauteng meet every Wednesday, but it's just the South African Police Service. So I think that that is going to be an important next step, strengthening the anti-gang units. I think they are under-resourced. So if we're going to get control of this problem, we have to look at whether the level of resourcing of the anti-gang units is sufficient. That's a conversation I need to have with the National Commissioner. I mean, these resources, we are being stretched, but I'm going to have to see whether it's possible to strengthen the anti-gang units. And I expect in 2 weeks' time, unfortunately, I'm going to be in the Western Cape for parliamentary business the whole of next week. And the following week, I also have a full diary. But I'm planning when I get back to receive this report. And also, I think it's going to be important to convene community structures, those who are dealing with alcohol abuse and other community structures. There are community structures that deal with the problem of excessive liquor, the number of taverns and so forth. So I want to convene a meeting of those community structures in all the affected areas, bring them all together and have a conversation with them about how what role the community can play in supporting these increased efforts to deal with the problem of gang violence. It's very heartbreaking. Here we have a 15-year-old child who died, who's injured. The mother passed away. I am going to visit the baby girl at Chalok again.
The PKTT, for me, is a total waste of money. I actually don't care what anybody says. You have a unit, excluding SNTs and overtime and salaries, costing us 100 million a year. I say you could probably double that. Investigating a handful of murders. And then on the Cape Flats, you got an AGU combating 3,000 murders a year with 7 million rand to spend. Can you see the disparity? And let me be brutal and blatant about it. The PKTT is not investigating a single death that is non-black. And it gets overfunded. And on the Cape Flats, we are losing 3,000 youngsters a year. And the AGU gets underfunded. They put a different premium on a colored life in this country. And I think it's disgusting. So for me, if anybody is going to try and justify the existence of a unit that last year investigated one murder at a cost of 100 million rand, excluding SNTs, excluding overtime, excluding salaries, while we're beating 3-year-olds out here. 3-year-olds. It just doesn't make sense. The PKTT must be disbanded, whether you use the word immediately or not.
I had a presentation on the anti-gang violence strategy that we developed following my visits to the Western Cape with the Department of Justice, because I was accompanied by the Deputy Minister Andries Nel on those meetings. Came back looked at what needs to be done, have revised our strategy, and I then subsequently indicated that we have a revised strategy. It has a lot of different elements, and the strategy, the government is allocated funding for the implementation of that strategy. The violence has intensified now in the parts of Gauteng, so we have to make sure that that strategy is implemented in all 4 provinces where the gang violence is growing. That's Gauteng, the Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and the Western Cape. The implementation of the strategy is going to require constant attention. We will have to monitor whether the implementation of the strategy, whether the strategy is achieving the results we're hoping for. The community was well represented here today. I indicated to them, we took a register of their names and contact details, that I want to maintain that contact. I hope that the community will build a community forum here. In the past, this community has produced great leaders, has established strong organizations, faith-based sporting organizations, and so forth. We're going to need those organizations to come on board. There is, in parts of, I think there is a trust gap. We have to breach that trust gap because the community has a major role to play. Of course, where there's high levels of violence and you're dealing with organized crime, people are reluctant to come forward. They're not prepared to testify in court, which makes it a little bit difficult to achieve convictions. But we have to fight this battle. I was told today that the mainly young boys who are being recruited are between the ages of 13 and 19. They're supposed to be in school. They're supposed to be looking forward to a bright future. But unfortunately, these communities are in a position where they feel marginalized. They feel that their issues around poverty, lack of opportunity, and so forth are not being properly addressed. But that's a problem across the country in all communities, although it's difficult to make that case to specific communities. Has already started. It is going to take a little bit longer than originally expected, and the reason for that is that, people are raising legitimately concerns about the risks associated with deploying the army, because the soldiers are not trained in policing. So we have to ensure that we take them through a process. You can call it a training process of understanding their role and also the limits of their responsibility, so that we avoid a situation where people are hurt, caught in the line of fire, and so forth. So we want to make sure that the army understands its role, and that training is taking place.